What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we are going over the broad crypto market and talking about if now is the time to be buying cryptocurrencies. Is it the time to be buying Bitcoin and Ethereum or ADA, Solana, Matic, etc.? Is now finally a point where it makes sense? That's what we're covering, so let's get into it. Now, before we do go ahead and get into the charts over here and talk about why this consistent downtrend has been happening, I want to focus on some of the macro things first because they have been what is driving this bear market. The first one being inflation. What we can see is that inflation has finally started to show us some possible early signs that it is starting to cool and calm down. What we know is that inflation has been on the run, going up over 8% at one point year over year, and that has been causing a lot of panic within the government. The Fed has then, started to raise interest rates and try to demolish the economy as much as possible in a soft way. Whatever. Now, because of this, though, we can see that inflation being such a strong catalyst to drive us down, once we could fix it, then likely that is going to help us start to see growth to the upside. In, the last week, we did see that inflation came in better than expected. People were expecting right around 8% to 7.9%, yet we did get 7.7% on headline inflation and 6.3% on core inflation to say that we may be in position to finally start to see that coming down. Now, that is not the only thing the Fed is looking at. They are also looking at employment, and what we can see is that there have been mass layoffs all around the world, mostly in big tech. We can see this week in business that mass layoffs at Meta have been happening, in which they have been releasing over 11,000 employees, or roughly 13% of their workforce. And this is a consistent thing we're seeing amongst all companies, from Amazon to Twitter to Facebook to Instagram to Google to Uber. All of these companies are starting to cut employees. Now, lastly, we do, of course, have the midterms going on right now here in the United States, and it does seem as if we're going to have a split government, in which we do have some of the government being run by Republicans, some of the government being run by Democrats. Now, obviously, this could just turn around completely, and the Democrats could come back and win the House and win the Senate. It's not impossible, but it doesn't seem as likely. But it does seem as if we're going to get a split House, and typically in, the economy, when we have a split House or a split government, it is very, very good for the economy because it provides stability. There's not just going to be one party that is making all of the rules and making all the decisions and releasing a bunch of policies freaking people out. It is usually much more of a slow, stable, time within the government. Okay. So with all of these things combined, again, inflation possibly coming down, layoffs happening, which should kind of ease the economy up a little bit, midterm seemingly going quite well. It does seem as if we are in a position to finally be figuring out all of these major catalysts that have been pushing us to the downside. Now the question becomes, do we see this being reflected in the charts? Are the charts showing also that a bottom could be in very soon? My answer is an absolute yes. Now, the reason being, for the most part, is that whenever we see bottoms getting formed in the world of crypto, they are usually formed off of descending structures, okay? Everyone always starts to say we're looking for an ascending structure, and that's just not true, right? Whenever we start to see these higher highs and higher lows, we will usually capitulate down out of them at bottoms of bear markets, right? We will usually go down and put in the lower low. I've actually been comparing what we're seeing right now to what we saw last summer, and I think that, the same principles are definitely applying. Look how we see the low, the breakout high, the lower low, the higher low, the growth, okay? Then we look here, the low, the lower low, the breakout high. Now the question becomes, do we put it in the higher low? And then look for continuation. Look how the macro structure of what we're seeing right now is descending, right? In which we are not seeing any growth right now, yet we are seeing a descending structure. You compare that to what we saw back here, very similar, right? Boom, lower highs, boom, lower lows. You look at the RSI in comparison on the daily charts. Whenever we were putting in all of these lower lows, we started to put in these higher lows on the daily RSI. You look what we're seeing right now. We're putting in these lows right here. Boom, low, lower low. But on the RSI, we are coming down and putting in low, higher low, just to go ahead and show that we are getting bullish divergence very similarly to what we saw last summer. And this is a pretty constant principle, right? You can see it here, very, very, very similar, in which we were in this thing. We put in, boom, lower highs, boom, some lower lows this way, but even if you cut it like this, boom, still lower lows one way or another. In that time period, we came in, we put in low, higher low, bullish divergence, descending structure into the breakout to the top side. So overall, it does seem to me as if this is when Bitcoin starts to usually bottom out. It does seem to me as if this is the structure that will give us a breakout. Not to say, again, that we're going to go straight up, because I do believe we're going to get a big fake out at some point. We're going to get the big fake out, the pullback, and then we're going to be able to see some growth, in my opinion. I do not think we're going to just do this, right? It's going to have to liquidate the people who are going to go long once we break like 25K. But it does seem like in structure terms, this is starting to put in a bottom at a perfect time in which the rest of the market is actually starting to, also display signs of seeing some type of growth and some type of recovery within the economy. So because of this, I do believe that it is time to start slowly dollar cost averaging in on crypto. I don't think you should be doing a lot of buying on these small coins. I think the best thing to do right now is start to buy some Bitcoin, start to buy some Matic, some ADA, maybe some Solana if that's a play that you want to take on. Buy some Ethereum, buy some, Chainlink, buy some BNB, buy any of these tokens that have been in the top 15 for years that have survived this thing. That's the way I look at it. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take this as financial advice, but I'm someone who's been in the space through a bear market and a bull market and have seen what happens. These are the coins that are the best, safest bets. If you want to be risky, go be risky, but I'm talking about the smart way to go about this is to buy some of these top 15 coins and slowly dollar cost average in. Don't throw all your money in right now. That's a terrible idea. We very well could capitulate to $10,000, $11,000 if another one of these exchanges goes down, especially a big one. So understand that it is not risk-free right now, but the odds are starting to gather in our favor. Whenever you look at it from the perspective of risk to reward, let's just hypothesize that we are going to go up to $100,000 one day, right? $100,000 to from where we are now looks like this. Okay. Now let's say the bottom is somewhere between 9,000 to 10,000. We're just going to say it's not even now, right? Let's just say it's somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000. Let's just call it right there. Okay. Let's make this red. Now what we're going to look at is the risk versus reward right now. This is your risk, this red box. This is your possible reward. I believe whenever the odds are so heavily stacked in my favor that this little zone is the best time to be buying. It makes more sense. If this is what's going to likely happen eventually, and this is the worst that can happen, why would I not be buying right now? Even if it does go further, I will just add more to my portfolio. That's what I'm saying. Don't just throw all your money in right now because it could go lower and you could get better deals. But realistically, in terms of risk versus reward into 2024, this is what we're looking at. And I think that it makes a lot of sense to be buying. And so that's exactly what I'm doing. So that's my opinion on what's going on in the market and whether or not it's a great time to buy. I'm going to start to continue to update you guys with these more long-term macro videos where we talk about what's going on in the market with FTX, or we talk about what's going on in the broad market, while also throwing in some, technical analysis on things like Matic, Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. So if you guys do like this new layout that I've been following over the last few weeks, definitely do let me know in the comment section below. But with that said, that's going to be about it for today's video, and I will see you all next time. Peace.